Good morning and welcome to the show. It's Monday morning and you know what that means. I have Dr. Roman Nation here in the studio who's going to give us some health tips. Welcome back to the show, Dr.
Morning,
Nation.
sir.
Good morning. You know, we were talking off camera about men of a certain age have a drop in their testosterone levels, don't
Yes.
they?
Yes.
And it's just a natural process as you age that just happens.
Correct.
How important is testosterone or that male hormone to you and to your health?
When you talk about importance, there's a difference between living, which is longevity, and quality of life. What happens as we as men age, typically our prostates get bigger, so that's why 80% of men in their 80s have some sort of prostate cancer, but it's not what kills them. Same kind of thing happens with testosterone.
Just makes them wish they were dead. Okay.
Well, from getting up in the middle of the night, yeah.
Yeah.
But as we age, starting around the mid to late 40s, sometimes early 40s, our testosterone level production drops. So you have a decrease in your total level of testosterone that goes down over time. And then at the same time, there's another hormone called sex hormone binding globulin that actually binds testosterone so your body can't use it. So you kind of get hit with a double whammy starting in about our 40s. And depending on how your symptoms go or how you're feeling, that's where people notice it. There's a lot of stuff that they talk about on commercials that says if you have symptoms of depression or low mood or low concentration, lots of those things, you could have low testosterone. The problem that we
or as the buzzword is low T.
Low T,
low
yeah,
T
exactly.
is what they call it. In the commercials.
And there's a handful of ways of getting it back in your system. There's a few ways that you can try and get your system to make more, which is more beneficial for younger men. By the time you're in your 50s and 60s, trying to push your system to make more on its own is pretty hard and not very effective.
So what type of therapies would you do for someone with low testosterone? And I guess what is the threshold for someone to come in and say, "Hey, doc, check me. I'm feeling kind of tired. I'm getting a little chubby," and
fatigue is a huge one that men come in for. A lot of men after they've watched it, and I think it's a good thing to just bring awareness, just like with everything else that we talk about in health. Once you start thinking about it, then you can start talking about it, and you can seek medical care for it. Typically, what we always do is when we sit down with men. And when women actually have a similar set of symptoms that come from having lower testosterone as they age as well.
Are there risks to hormone therapy like that?
There's always risks to everything that we do. There's risks to things that we don't do. And there's what's called, if you look at the literature, because you can look at the media and you'll have stuff that says if you have low testosterone, here's your symptoms. And if you've been on testosterone, here's what you could be liable for, blah, blah, blah. If you look at the literature, there's what's called a U-shaped curve, which means that if you take your testosterone level to superhuman levels, is the way I like to refer to it, and meaning that you're well above the curve on what you push your testosterone to, then yes, your risk of heart attack, stroke, and blood clots
Is that like
up.
Bodybuilders do stuff like that?
Yeah,
People compete?
They get into the triple and quadruple range of where what we would consider healthy. But then at the same time, the insurance companies don't like to do it because the therapies are decently expensive for all the new ones that they advertise those commercials. They're anywhere between $300 and $600 a month for like the ones that go under your arm and stuff like that.
Sure.
So the insurance companies
Those are like implants, right?
Well, that's a different set, and those actually aren't that expensive.
The ones that go under your arm. Are you talking about a cream or something?
It's called Axiron,
Okay.
and it's a great therapy because you just put a little of this gel in a cup, and then wipe it under both arms, and it gets absorbed through your bloodstream that way. There's some other stuff called Androgel, which goes topically like that, but because they're commercially branded, they're still pretty expensive. And so because of that, the insurance companies, they want you to have they don't care about what your symptoms are. They want you to have a testosterone level that's below like 200 most of the time. Most men will feel that their testosterone is low once it drops below 400 or 500, and that's when they start having the symptoms of fatigue. The hair tends to fall out. They gain more weight here in their midsection. Their muscle mass goes down.
Why are you looking at me when you say that?
This is what I do with most men, is that they look at it and they start thinking about it.
Oh yeah, that's me.
They do, and it's the same thing with women. Is that I never put it together like that. I just list off the same symptoms, and then they start thinking about it. Like, that really does apply to me. And some of them are very generic because a lot of the same symptoms that we have with depression are associated with low testosterone. So poor concentration, I have no energy, I have no get up and go, my appetite changes, so I've gained weight, my sleep pattern is worse. All those are the same type of symptoms that you have in depression.
Now, just because you have those symptoms doesn't necessarily mean you have low testosterone.
Correct.
It could be something else as well, right?
Correct. Yes, there's lots of things because, and that's why we run a full set of labs on it, because we've had some that come in where they think their testosterone is low, and it's actually that they're a new diabetic at that point.
Okay.
And they've just kind of not been watching their diet. So we do the full lab assessment to figure out where the problem actually is, and then we kind of go back and correct things one at a time.
Dr. Nation, we have to run off to a break right now, but on the other side of that, I want to talk more about this. This is fascinating stuff for men of a certain age. You're watching Waking Up with Don, and now to your local weather, brought to you by the West Pittman Law Firm, westpittmanlawfirm.com. Welcome back to the show, and thanks for sticking with us. I'm here with Dr. Roman Nation, and we're talking about low T or low testosterone.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. There are risks to any kind of testosterone therapy, and just because you're tired, right, doesn't mean you have low T. It could be something else, like you had mentioned before the break. It could be, you could be a new diabetic, and you're just feeling sluggish because of that.
There could be thyroid issues. There's lots of other things.
Yeah, probably 100 other things that can make you feel that way.
Yeah, we find a lot of things with anemia as well.
But there are risks to it, and we talked about bodybuilders. How people. Yeah. You had said something that was kind of interesting to me, that you were listing some symptoms of low testosterone. One of them was depression. Now, if you're a bodybuilder and you're doing 2-3 times or superhuman levels of testosterone, does that make you more aggressive?
Yes. Yeah.
Or more optimistic, or more crazy, or what does it do to you?
There's a set of health risks that goes with if your testosterone level is too low, and really the studies that they've done on that is when you have low testosterone, your risks of dying from all causes, what they call all-cause mortality, goes up when it's too low. There's a different set of risks when it goes too high, and that's what we call a U-shaped curve. So there's a sweet spot in the middle that we shoot for folks to feel the best. And when you go too high is when you start having more issues. One of the things that can happen is your body will turn it into estrogen.
Isn't that ironic?
It really is. What's really even more ironic with that is that men who are taking testosterone, and even though they're working out, they'll start having things like breast tenderness or nipple tenderness that we associated with women, and that's from that over conversion into estrogen. And that gets into a tricky little thing because some men have those enzymes that are far more active than others, and actually the ones who have more body fat on their system, because those enzymes sit in your adipose tissue, in your fat cells.
Wow.
So just adding testosterone is not going to necessarily make you feel better. And the more overweight you are when you start, the less benefit you're actually going to have from it, because your body takes it and says, well, I don't know what to do with it. You haven't worked me out in years.
Yeah.
So I'll just turn it into estrogen. It'll sit here in our stomach.
Because that's the new normal for me.
Well, I don't know. But that's what happens.
Personally,
the other thing that you're talking about with bodybuilders and stuff is that it also causes acne, and then when it goes too high, you do get hyper-aggressiveness. And we've had folks that come back; they're just very, very sensitive to the medication, where they come back and they say, "I'm really agitated now," and so we have to kind of adjust their dose downward to a more appropriate level, and that's where they find that good sweet spot where they're feeling better, they're exercising more, and they're feeling like they're a younger version of themselves. It's not an anti-aging type thing. There's a lot of people who like to coin it that way.
Yeah, you hear about celebrities who do that, to try to stay young and fit.
Yeah, and actually most of that it's not diet, and it's not, parts of it are diet, but it's not all diet. There's no way to get these celebrity type things without using other stuff like testosterone or hormone therapy. Most of the time it actually bleeds into growth hormone therapy is how they do it. And growth hormone therapy is very, very useful, but it's also very, very expensive.
Long-term abuse can also create changes in your physical appearance, not just your body, but your face. Isn't that right? I've read some stuff where your jaw gets broader and you get a bony brow like a caveman. Is that true?
I haven't seen so much of that, but what you might be looking at is some of the
So
stuff.
Arnold Schwarzenegger really looks this way.
Well, there's some of that, and nobody, I don't think anybody but him knows his full history of how much he did. I think he's admitted to using those types of therapies.
If you've seen him when he was Mr. Olympia, you know he had to be doing something.
Exactly. And there are some changes, but they're typically not skeletal. Now, one of the things that testosterone does do is it actually helps prevent against osteoporosis as well. Same type of thing with estrogen. Women who are on estrogen therapy have less risk of osteoporosis too.
So, Dr. Nation, if you suspect you may have something wrong with you, you just see the doc and say, hey, check my testosterone?
You can ask them. Yeah, They, like I said, the problem that you run into with some providers is they don't. If you don't fall outside the lab normal range, then they're going to tell you that your testosterone's fine, and that may not very well be the case. It may be that your testosterone was in the 600 to 800 range, and now it's in the 300 to 400 range. You're still technically normal, but you're feeling all the effects with that.
But it's not where it really should be. It's not an optimal range.
Correct.
Dr. Romanation, thank you so much for getting us smart on low T today.
My pleasure.
I can't wait to see what we can talk about next week. And we'll be right back after these messages. Welcome back to the show. I have a familiar face here back in the studio. I have the Reverend Billy Fox. He's from Haven House in Santa Rosa, and he's the Director of Development down there. And welcome to the show, Reverend.
Well, thank you, Don. Thanks for having me on. It's good to see you again.
Yeah, good to be seen.
Yeah.
A lot of people know you from the mission here in Panama City,
Right.
but since your tenure here, you've moved over to Santa Rosa. And what type of work are you doing there? I know it's a mission. Haven House.
Right.
But how is that different from what you've done here?
Santa Rosa, at Haven House in Santa Rosa Beach is a long-term substance abuse recovery program, and that's always been its mission. It isn't a shelter. It isn't working directly with homeless, only if someone like from the rescue mission downtown needs long-term recovery and not able to fit that program, they would forward them over there.
So substance abuse and addiction.
And addiction
are a big component of homelessness, isn't it?
Oh, it is, yeah. And although it sometimes is cushioned, but it's somewhere along the line either being addicted or being the family of addicted people. A lot of times the women and children that ended up at Bethel Village there were their husbands or boyfriends or whatever.
Someone
had
in the
drug
family
abuse.
unit had a problem.
That's right. And the women themselves too. But I'm just saying that substance abuse is just it's an epidemic in our country. It really is.
Haven House is really a recovery point for people like that, a recovery center.
That's right. Yeah.
Now, do you have to be homeless or desperate to go there, or can anybody go to Haven House?
Oh no,
how do your clients get there?
Well, and it really is a lot of word of mouth and a lot of passing around of just what they do there. And we have people that are just regular middle class folks. We have what I call up and outers and down and outers. And so it's just, if that's your problem, then that's the focus that they have there, is to help you find freedom from that chain that holds you down, that addiction of substance abuse, alcohol or drug addiction. And so much more of it today, Don, is pills. Pills are just rampant. They just are coming everywhere. And God help us as marijuana continues to get more and more open. And who knows? I mean, it's just...
I'm kind of hardcore when it comes to that type thing.
Oh, me too.
And I'm kind of libertarian in a lot of my views, live and let live. But anything that compromises your cognitive ability is not good for you.
Yeah.
I mean, life is hard enough. Without giving yourself a handicap. And I laugh about that, but it's so true. And some people are just ill-equipped for life, and they resort to drugs, and it's just a bad thing. Now, Reverend, if somebody here is watching and overhears our conversation about this, and maybe they know someone who needs help, what did he do? How do we get in touch with Haven House?
Yeah, the easiest thing is to go on the web. It's havenhouse.net. Okay, so they go to havenhouse.net, and there's an application there. There's a lot of information on the different addictions, different drugs, what the effect, if you have and a lot of the guys there are young. This is a men's only program, I forgot to say that.
Okay.
A lot of them are in their early 20s, and maybe you've got your son at home and here's some of the things he's acting. You can look up on our website and see what different pills are doing, what cocaine is doing to people, or crack, or meth.
I think if you've got someone like that in your household, you know what it's doing to them.
Well, no, but they don't even know what they're doing. They just know that they're acting out, and they don't know, and so they can start watching the signs and then get on there. But if it's your, and I don't know any family that I ever talked to that doesn't have somebody that's gotten into
or
some
know
kind
of
of
someone,
thing. Yeah, I mean, it's just real hard. You don't have to scratch very far to find somebody that you know.
Reverend
and
Fox,
so just direct them straight to us, and through the website.
We've got to run off to a break right now, but on the other side of the break, because time is the enemy on the show.
It always is.
Let's explore this a little more, because I'm fascinated by Haven House and what it can do for people. And I want to talk a little bit about veterans, too, because
veterans
both
is the
you
big
and I
thing.
are Air Force veterans.
That's right.
Although we're straight and narrow, there might be some of our brothers and sisters out there that are having a problem with
need
that.
help. We want to help them. Good.
We'll be right back after these messages. Welcome back to the show. I'm speaking with Reverend Billy Fox from Haven House out in Santa Rosa Beach.
That's right.
Now, we talked about drug addiction and how bad it can be and how debilitating it can be, not just to the person who's addicted, but to the family.
Oh, it has a huge effect on families. It really does. And Haven House has been doing this for 20 years, very, very successful. Right now they run about an 80% success rate, meaning that people leave there, they get a job, and we know a year later they are still free of substance abuse.
So if somebody watching this has a family member or a friend or whomever that's struggling with addiction, havenhouse.net. They can get out and learn more about it.
Yeah, fill out an application online, send it, we get in contact with you and get going. And Don, we are really focusing now on what we call our Men of Valor division, which are military veterans.
So you have basically a veterans outreach going on now.
That's right, and that's what I brought. When I worked with the rescue mission, one of the things that I found is 1 in 3 of the men down there were military veterans. Every other one was a Afghan or Iraqi veteran, young guys, and substance abuse problems mixed with PTSD and those kind of things. And so that was one of the things when I came and talked to them at Haven House about my background and what we want to do. And Charles Plochet, the director, he said, well, what would you want to do as an expansion? And I immediately said, it's got to be for veterans.
Sure.
We've got to work for these guys.
Well,
We've got to work for our heroes.
They've done so much for us.
Oh, yeah.
And not all injuries are visible.
Well, that's the thing, yeah.
And you don't know who's got PTSD, who doesn't, who's struggling with addiction. And, we can only, and not having been in combat, I can't speak to it, personally.
Me too, yeah.
But we can only imagine the depths of despair that some people go into and some of the things they've had to witness and see that they're dealing with, and perhaps drugs are a relief for some people.
Yeah, and I call it the scar that's not seen, and then the substance abuse is just trying to fill that hollowness.
So how do we reach out to veterans? How do we get them to avail themselves of your services?
Yeah, and I'm starting to work real close with all the veterans places. The Veterans Administration has a lot of good things going, but a lot of these guys are just not stable enough to get the help they need. They go into the VA, and if they don't have an advocate with them, they don't. And if they have an active substance abuse problem, they're not gonna be able to function in the structure that they need them to get
keep
them
their
help.
Appointments, get to their appointments, things like that.
And when they say, got another form, you got another time, you got to do that, frustration leads you right back to your.
So Haven House gives you a little more personal attention.
Personal attention and a good structured environment. It is a live-in environment. 9 months worth of programming and another 3 or 4 months of working, and if you need it to get a job and get your income back together. But we're working with these more and more with the VA regional area, and we're trying to cover the Panhandle. We want to cover all across the Panhandle.
Let's take care of our own here in the Panhandle.
That's right. That's what we want to do, is go all the way across the Panhandle from Pensacola to Tallahassee at least, and just say, send us these guys. If they need help, we're going to take care of our vets.
Reverend Fox, we're going to have to let that be the last word.
I understand.
Thank you so much
it was
for the whole.
Wonderful to be here.
Oh, thank you for the work that you do, and please keep us posted on Haven House and how you're helping our vets.
I'll do that. Thank you, sir.
And we'll be right back after this little musical segment. Welcome back to the show. I have the privilege of having True Soul here in the studio, and they're going to do a little song for us. I got Glenn and Steve. We're going to do On the Dock of the Bay. All right, Dock of the Bay.
Sitting in the morning sun, I'll be sitting when the evening comes, watching the ships roll in, then I'll watch them roll away again. Now I'm just sitting on the dock of the bay, watching the tide roll away. Ooh, sitting on the dock of the bay, wasting time. I left my home in Georgia, headed for the Frisco Bay, 'cause I had nothing to live for. Seems like nothing's gonna come my way. Now I'm just sitting on the dock of the bay, watching the tide roll away. Ooh, sitting on the dock of the bay, wasting time. Looks like nothing's gonna change. Everything remains the same. I can't do 10 people tell me to do, so I guess I'll remain the same. Oh, sitting here resting my bones, and this loneliness won't leave me alone. Yeah, just 2,000 miles I roam, just to make this dock my home. Now I'm just sitting on the dock of the bay, watching the tide roll away. Ooh, sitting on the dock of the bay, wasting time. Let me try to whistle. True soul.